Hello? I'm a mother of two children in my 50s. I married my first husband in my early 30s and divorced him within a year of marriage because he cheated on me. With the help of my parents, I opened a small sandwich shop in downtown Chicago where there are many company buildings. Customers' responses were positive when I toasted the sandwich bread to warm it up and used jam instead of mayonnaise. As office workers came to get the sandwiches for their breakfast and lunch, sales began to increase. That's when I met my husband. He was raising his son and daughter by himself. My store usually closes when office workers leave work. But one day he came to me and politely asked if I could have sandwiches ready by the time he got off work. He explained that his kids had tried my sandwiches and loved them, and have been asking for more ever since. I agreed to make as many as he needed if he paid in advance, and he thanked me. After that, he became a regular customer and thanked me for making his life easier by providing food and snacks for his kids. I sympathized with him, knowing how hard it is to raise children alone. I asked if he had divorced his wife, and he confirmed that they had some issues, and she left their 1-year-old and 2-year-old behind. I commended him for being a diligent and good father and asked why his wife would leave. I then shared my own story of divorcing my husband because of his infidelity. As time passed, we became friends, and I even started making fruit and nut snacks for his children along with their sandwiches. His children started coming to my store from time to time, and we quickly became close. I felt bad that they were always coming to the neighborhood where their dad worked, so I started visiting them at their school. I don't know if that's why, but they started asking me if I could be their mother and live with them. He apologized for their behavior, saying that they were too young to understand. I guess they miss their mother a lot. I'm so sorry. I'm okay. They're really nice and cute. I thought it would be nice if this man asked me to marry him. He was very careful. He confessed that it was because his family goes beyond bullying a person. I told you I understand their mother leaving. I can't even handle them. So, I couldn't blame her, and I can already see that you're getting hurt and having a hard time. Then why don't we move far away from them? Kids liking me is the first thing, and I like you and the kids too. My support encouraged them, and soon after we got married. We had a small dinner together instead of having a wedding. He called his friends to dinner instead of his family. That's how much he was hurt by his family. And my husband told me the mother-in-law is not his biological mother. And the sister-in-law is a stepsister, who the mother-in-law brought with her when she and his dad married. So it was understandable when he said he didn't talk to them after his dad passed away. Anyone would fight against their biological mother when she's so harsh on the wife. It was the stepmother and half-sister. He wouldn't act that easily if it weren't that bad. Their mom was smart and clever, but her family was poor. For that, they looked down on her and bullied her almost every day coming into the house without notice. I didn't know until later. Then he promised me, I'll make sure they don't bully you. Thank you for being with me. But the promise was overshadowed as the mother-in-law and the sister-in-law found our house. I saw them for the first time, and they looked so arrogant. Their clothes, makeup, and everything they wore were from luxury brands. The sister-in-law said she couldn't drink tea because the teacup I offered was from a cheap brand. And the mother-in-law suddenly went into the master room and opened our closet. She threw the beds that I brought as a wedding gift to the floor and told me to throw them away. How could you think of my family and bring something like this? I guess you two didn't call us and bought anything you could get your hands on. If his father was still alive, he would have been the director of a general hospital. That's what our family is. How dare you try to call it even with this trash? And the sister-in-law took out the fruit from the refrigerator and said, "Oh, look, did you hide all these fruits deep inside so you could have them all?" Can I have them all, Mom? She's trying to hide things from us. Go check all the drawers. Then she went into the master room and went through all my dressers and jewelry box. She was trying to take my necklace and ring set that my husband bought me as a wedding gift. I said, "Those were gifts from Jack." Then the sister-in-law said, "Then why aren't you buying us anything? You approached Jack because you knew that he was the managing director of the company, didn't you?" And you are trying to rip us off, coming in with nothing. She made a fuss while screaming her nonsense. If you want your gift back, bring us dresses, mink coats, pearl necklaces, and earrings as a set. Otherwise, you'll get nothing. My daughter came back home at that moment. I told them I would and sent them off to protect my daughter. But then, my husband, who came home much later than usual, brought all those wedding gifts back from them. Did you go to your mom's house? How did you know? He said our daughter called him when she saw her grandmother and aunt at home. They're young, but they know everything. She called me and cried that her grandma and aunt were bullying her mom. You should have called me. Why did you let them do such things to you? I'm more scared you might leave me, putting up with all those. I'm sorry? I didn't get to say hi to them before, so I was trying to have a cup of tea with them. I didn't know that would happen, really. I made Kai and Crystal worry for nothing. I'll make sure this doesn't happen again. The next day, my husband went out to look for a new house for us to move into. My family moved to a place that was newly built in uptown Chicago less than a month after my in-laws broke into our house. My husband blocked my mother and sister-in-law from trying to crash into the house several times. And when they made a scene about me coming between my husband and them, he called the police on them. They're still your mother and sister. Is it okay? They're the ones who turned our house upside down and took everything they wanted. Do you really want that to happen again? There's a line not to cross, even for family. If they don't know the line, I have to let them know like this. My husband was very determined. After that, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law didn't call us or come to my house to make a fuss, and that lasted almost 10 years. My husband, the children, and I had peaceful days. But my husband started to get sick. He was often tired and lost much weight. He eventually collapsed from exhaustion at work and was taken to the hospital. I ran to the emergency as soon as I got the call. The doctor told me he needed a thorough examination. My husband tried to comfort me, saying it wouldn't be a big problem, but the test results said otherwise. He was diagnosed with late-stage stomach cancer. It was so unexpected. I thought, now we'll finally live happily ever after. But he had cancer. I tried to have hope that he would get better, but his condition worsened every day. I asked the people whom my late father-in-law knew to introduce us to well-known cancer specialists in the field. My husband met with the specialist and did many tests, but he passed away when we were about to try a new chemotherapy. At his funeral, with his picture in front of me, I looked back and wondered if my efforts were not enough. I should have done better. I should have tried harder. Those thoughts were all I had left. I was sad and had so many regrets. I cried all day, holding the children. Then, the mother-in-law and the sister-in-law came into the funeral hall. They were wearing funeral clothes, but they didn't remove the manicures on their nails. From the look on their faces, it seemed as if they were waiting for this moment. They pushed me out of the chief mourner's spot and took my place. And even though all the mourners were there, they didn't hesitate to ask, "How much does Jack's company pay him for condolence money?" Are you thinking about taking it? You already have your house. You'll have nowhere to go if I take that from you. So I'll leave it with you, as if she was doing me a favor. I asked, "What are you talking about? You haven't even laid a flower before his picture, and you want to talk about money first? Even if you were not his biological mother and sister, this is not right, really." Then the sister-in-law said, "Then are you a biological mother to your children? How dare you talk about being a real mother or not? Jack left so early because you had nothing to help him but suck the blood out of him." Then the sister-in-law sat down on the floor and pretended to cry, hitting the ground. "My gosh, she killed my brother." The mother-in-law grabbed me by the collar and said, "You have no right to be here. I know my son had many bank accounts, stocks, and insurance. You're holding the kids as hostages to have it all to yourself. If you don't want to embarrass yourself in front of people, you should back off." When my family and relatives saw what just happened, they had a fight with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. I took the kids outside because I was worried that they might get hurt. And I still don't remember how the funeral went from there. I was emotionally and physically tired. and I had to talk to the funeral home to make sure the in-law didn't cause any more scenes to protect my kids. After I finally got home from putting my husband's remains in the charnel house, my mother-in-law was at my house. Now let's talk properly. I'll give you two choices. You can either give me everything and keep this house at least, or leave with nothing in your hands. We have kids in the house. Do you really have to do this now? The kids just said goodbye to their father. Oh, please, don't tell me you care so much about the kids. You told me I'm like this because I'm not Jack's biological mother. Then what does that make you? Yeah, you're not the real mother either. And you're the one who's doing this for Jack's money. Who are you to judge? Then my oldest son came out of his room and shouted, "What is this really? Who do you think you are, coming to our house every day and bullying my mother and saying nonsense? Have you ever called us on our birthdays? What kind of grandma is like this?" The mother-in-law yelled back louder. "I see you educated your children very well. A kid interrupts adult conversation, screaming and talking back? What a nice family." I stopped my daughter from joining the fight and tried to comfort my son. I had to stop this mess for the sake of the children, so I said, "Okay, get out already. You're the one who started all this in front of the kids. I'll just do whatever you want me to do. Just go away." The mother-in-law finally looked satisfied and left. I went into my room and cried for so long, not able to make any sound though. They barged in before I was able to have any time to be sad. It was only then that I realized why my husband was so eager to distance himself from them. I thought I'd get out of this mess only when I gave her what she asked. I'd make a living somehow. I could wash dishes at a restaurant or something. I was ready to do anything, as long as I could live with the kids peacefully. With that in mind, I started organizing my husband's things. As I put his clothes away into a box, tears poured down my face. Tears flowed down my eyes again when I saw the things that my husband used to use, but I couldn't just sit there and cry all day. I went to my husband's study. As I was pulling out things from his desk drawers, I found a thick document envelope with my name on it. There was a letter to me. I could already see what he wanted me to do when he's gone. He didn't want my mom and sister to take anything from me. He gave me a number to call, someone he trusted. I called the number first thing in the morning. "Are you Rolla?" I asked. "You must be Carol," she replied. I saved her number. She knew who I was when she answered the phone. We set up an appointment and went to see her. Rolla was a lawyer. She gave me her name card and said, "Jack has sponsored my education ever since I was in an orphanage, and I was able to become a lawyer. I'm currently working at a big law firm. Jack hired me for this case a long time ago. When my husband was diagnosed with cancer, he was worried about me and the kids. He looked for a lawyer he could trust and found out Rolla worked at a law firm after graduating from Harvard Law. I owe him. Thanks to him, I was able to go to college and work as a lawyer at a law firm. I'm happy to help. I also feel relieved that I can be of assistance. I was worried that my in-laws might try to take the kids away from me. I'm worried about Kai and Crystal." Then she said, "Carol, hold yourself together. You can't lose to these people." Jack didn't want that either. That you're thinking that if you give them everything, it will end. But it won't. They'll come back and take the house for various reasons. That's how the world works. Pull yourself together. And you need that money to provide for your kids. Money isn't everything, but you need it to support your kids. They'll need college funds. What are you gonna do? They won't be able to afford tuition fees. Even with scholarships, you have to pull yourself together. Jack came to me to prepare for this. Rolla handed me a pen with a built-in recorder. She told me to stick it to my clothes wherever I meet the mother-in-law or the sister-in-law. I did as she told me to. I recorded everything the mother-in-law and sister-in-law said to me. They accused me of taking their precious son away and demanded that I return all the things I supposedly took from him. They claimed I had no right to be in their house and that my marriage was invalid. They also said that none of their family attended our wedding and that they could take everything from me if they wanted to. I was still being unreasonable, and at one point, the sister-in-law even physically attacked me for not giving her Jack's insurance document. She scolded me for not having all the necessary documents when our lawyers were present, and called me stupid for trying to take them in advance. She also berated me for talking back to my elders. The sister-in-law grabbed my hair and pushed me, while the mother-in-law initially wanted to raise kids, but changed her mind. They both believed that the kids were spoiled, just like me, and that they would never become better people, even if they were taken away. They didn't hesitate to humiliate us, and finally the day came when the lawyers from both sides met with us. The mother-in-law and sister-in-law saw Rola and laughed at her, completely ignoring her. They said she was too young to be a lawyer. Rola then spoke up and said that things couldn't continue this way and they needed to talk to their client if they wanted to proceed. The opposition lawyer then scolded the mother-in-law for her attitude and tried to convince her not to say anything rude or abusive. When they found out that Rola was from a famous law firm hired by my husband himself, the mother-in-law and sister-in-law were embarrassed and lost their composure. Rola then handed them documents and explained that Jack's will left everything to me and that there was no inheritance assigned for his stepmother, Monica Walters, and stepsister, Amy Walters. The documents were notarized, and the opposition lawyer looked embarrassed when Rola explained everything clearly. He tried to persuade the mother-in-law to give up, saying that even if she sued, she wouldn't be able to get any money and would only tire herself out. However, they refused to back down without a fight, blaming everything on me and calling me a witch. They even went as far as to say that my husband would cry in heaven if I took everything from them. I then showed them a written diagnosis and recording of their abusive behavior towards me, which I had obtained after going to the hospital following their attack. When I played the recordings, both the mother-in-law and the sister-in-law finally stopped talking. Their lawyer frowned and left the place. From now on, if you ever bother me with your nonsense and insult my kids again, I'll sue your asses. And I'm gonna demand all the compensation for the mental and physical damage I have had. When I told them in a firm voice, the mother-in-law and the sister-in-law went back without saying anything. I held Rola's hand tight and thanked her in tears. Thank you so much. I wouldn't be able to do this if I didn't have you by my side. I don't know how I could possibly thank you enough. What are you saying? This is all because you endured everything so well. You've done a great job, and you've been very brave. I'm sure Jack would be happy in heaven too, she said with tears in her eyes. I was so proud that I protected all my husband's assets and made sure they didn't get their hands on my kid. But the in-laws just wouldn't give up. After that day, they came to my house a few times and caused a scene in front of my kid's school. Your mom is lying to you. She'll take everything she can get her hands on and will leave you behind. Kai, my son, almost punched the sister-in-law while shouting at them. So I got a call from the police. I called Rola right away. I ran to the police station and saw Kai. I felt sorry for him, and I was very angry at the same time. I want to sue them. They're the ones who have been stalking and harassing us by saying nonsense to my kids, causing mental damage. When I yelled, the sister-in-law yelled back. Look at her. Detective, did you see that? That's why the boy's not disciplined. That kid tried to punch his aunt. He needs to learn a lesson today. Then Rola came into the police station. Rola talked to the police officers about what was going on in our family, and she applied for protection from domestic violence crimes with the evidence we've collected. She said this would prevent them from coming back to us. After that, we were able to cut them off completely and have peaceful days. All my kids have already graduated from college, and now they are working as office workers. I learned traditional crafts as my dexterity is my strong point, and now I work at a workshop. I sometimes meet Rola with my kids and enjoy our peaceful days. It'd be perfect if my husband was here with us. But as this time with Rola and the kids was possible because of my husband, I'm grateful for it every day. Jack, I miss you a lot today. I'll do my best raising the kids and working hard until I meet you again. Thank you for listening to my story. I wish you all the best, peace, and happiness. Stay healthy. Please leave your words of support and wise advice in the comments section. Likes and subscriptions help me a lot. Have a wonderful day, everyone.